Good afternoon, everyone. Standing on all existing protocol, good afternoon, all excellencies. Just a bit of correction, it's actually goodwill. The second correction is that I'm not married to my father, so it's not Mrs. Thank you for that. I wanted to say that I want to thank the organizers for this very important conversation that we're having. Really, thank you so much, Eco Night. Yes. Because being able to see the level of people who have sat here and spoken to us about the different things that is being done. So I'm going to get straight to the conversation. So good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and standing all the existing protocol. I bring you regards, warm regards from the Honourable Minister of Environment, who is currently on his way to COP16. So he sends his apologies. And he wanted to be here in person, but he's on his way to Saudi Arabia for COP16. And it's very important we talked about that. And the first keynote speaker talked about the impact of desertification on the northern parts of Nigeria. And those are the conversations that we're going to have at the COP16. So it's important that he is there. And he's directed that I represent him and share his goodwill message. The global climate crisis is identified as an existential threat that is impacting on livelihoods, economies, societies, basically every facet of life. Nigeria is situated in one of the global hotspots of high human vulnerability and continues to experience the adverse impacts of climate change, namely droughts, rising temperatures, erosion, deforestation, flooding, and desertification, and increasing sea levels. These impacts are further exacerbated by prior existing vulnerabilities such as high rate of poverty, exposure to security threats, leading to massive displacements of persons, property, loss, migration, and disruption of economic activities and normal functions of the society, shrinkage of the Lake Chad, inadequate access to basic and essential services such as water and electricity. A huge population of over 220 million, projected to reach over 400 million by the year 2050. And approximately 70% of this population dependent on climate-sensitive livelihoods, such as smallholder farmers, pastoralists, and fishing communities. And such, it is evident that the business-as-usual approach to tackling this catastrophe would no longer cut it, more so as emphasized by the COVID challenge, where countries began to see the need to infuse innovative pathways to addressing climate change. Indeed, Nigeria is not waiting behind. At the core of His Excellency, Mr. President's renewed hope agenda is the drive towards accelerating a climate-resilient Nigeria. Need I remind you what these priority areas are? And you will see very well that it does align. Reform the economy to deliver sustained inclusive growth, strengthen national security for peace and prosperity, boost agriculture to achieve food security, unlock energy and natural resources for sustainable development, enhance infrastructure and transportation as enablers of growth, focus on education, health, and social investment as essential pillars of development, accelerate diversification through industrialization, digitalization, creative arts, manufacturing, and innovation, improve governance for effective service delivery. And in this renewed hope agenda, we can see clearly that the government is moving towards accelerating a climate-resilient Nigeria. And indeed, the conversations that we've had here does fit into what has just been said. For us as a country, one of the things we've also done is we have the circular economy policy that touches on waste to wealth. Through the circular economy, we are also encouraging the informal sector to take advantage of the wealth that is abundant in waste, to also reduce reproduction of resources and make use of what we term as waste. We also have the clean cooking policy that talks on how can we leverage on clean cooking mechanisms for the country. We are now including health in the revision of our third generation nationally determined contribution, known as the NDC 3.0. Talking about the carbon market, Nigeria has a draft policy on the carbon market, the manual of procedure, and we're also working on the regulation as well. And in the coming weeks, you'll be getting invitations from us as the public to help us review that stance. Innovative pathways, and we're talking about greenhouse farming. So you have a number of persons thinking about how do you do climate smart agriculture. You have groups of people talking about greenhouse farming. You also have persons working on early warning system in collaboration with NIMET. Also the Project Evergreen, manufacturing of renewable energy technologies, climate adaptation technologies, and green solutions, and of course the jobs, focusing on private-public partnerships to ensure that we drive this conversation forward. All hands are needed to accelerate the fight against climate change. The private sector funding is a crucial component to this. And so when we talk about, and one of the things I'm very excited is when I just sat here and I listened to what everybody else said. There's so much that public funding can go, but there's so much farther that private sector funding can go. And so one of the things we're talking about is, and let me explain what the Project Evergreen is. The Project Evergreen is an understanding that it's very expensive for us as a country to import renewable energy solutions. But what are we saying? Come and manufacture them here in Nigeria. And so we're saying that the renewable energy solutions, manufacture them, the EV vehicles, and I'm so happy I heard what the Minister of Uganda said. And she said, can we do some components and then we have that trade? Can we also have Uganda with their companies come to Nigeria and manufacture this here as well? In that way, you see that there's jobs for the people, job for the young population that we do have, opportunities for innovative ideas. And this is the time, now, not tomorrow. The time to tackle this. And I'm so excited that I heard about the different forms of innovative agricultural practices. How can we move? How can we change the technology? How can we use technologies to ensure we have adaptation, to be able to adapt? We're talking about clothing. We're talking about the fashion line. We're talking about the clothes we wear. We're talking about the houses we live in. We're talking about the water we drink. We're talking about adaptation using technology. And I'm so excited about this generation that we have. We call them the Generation Z, or we call them the Generation Alpha. And these are young people, young women, young men who are on fire with passion and knowledge of what it is they can do. We talk about leveraging on the creative industry. And so again, I'm saying that climate change is not one man's business. It's not one entity, but everyone seated here, every person on your seat is necessary to drive this conversation. And I love what it is I heard. How can we move it from dialogue to action? And one of the things I'm looking at coming out from here is how can we identify clear pipeline of projects? And I heard what the first keynote speaker said. We have a very varied issues. How can we identify clear pipeline of projects? And that's where the private sector will work in. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless us all.